for the people from Israel, I'm Susan Abramson. I'm the rabbi at Temple Shalom Emeth in Burlington, Massachusetts, and I've seen a couple of you before, and it's great to see you again. And we have some new friends here, which is wonderful to meet you. So what I thought we would do is just have the everybody from Israel just introduce yourselves and maybe say a little bit about where you live and something you'd like to tell us about yourself. So maybe Matityahu, I'll start with you.
Okay, so hi guys, I'm Matityahu Gadborochov from Rehovot. I learn in Deshalit High School, and I like history and prehistory and cartoons and stuff. Yeah,
How old are you?
I'm 16 years old.
Yitzhak, why don't you go next?
Okay, so my name is Yitzhak. I'm 16 years old. I live in Sderot, which is in the south of Israel, and I'm really glad meeting you all.
So you are from one of the places that got hit the hardest,
Yeah,
October 7th, and since then, where are you living now?
we came back to our city, like some residents came back, so I came back as well with my family. And we were displaced in the center of Israel, so, but now we're home.
That's incredible. It must feel wonderful to be back home. Excellent. Thank you. Yoav, why don't you go next?
I'm 16 years old. I live in Ra'anana, where there was actually recently a terrorist attack. And I'm originally from Maryland in the US, near the DC area, if everyone's aware. And I recently moved here 3 years ago. And right now I attend the Waldorf Barber American International School, which is in Eben Yehuda. And yeah, I'm interested specifically in STEM and science, but I also am very fascinated by debate and historical concepts. So I'm really happy to be here and talk with you guys.
My name is Shani. I'm from Yavne, which is near Ashdod and Rehovot, like in that area. And I am in student councils, and I love it, and I have my pre-military movement that I really love. And I'm currently at my best friend's house because I just we met to do like a project together, and I really wanted to participate in the Zoom.
Thank you so much. What would somebody like to jump in and tell me maybe how your life has what your life is like now, like 3 months after the war started, and maybe what changed about it after October 7th?
You jump in.
Who wants?
That's all right, you
Who else? Oh, okay, go ahead, Yoav.
So obviously it's a very complex question because actually I feel like over the past 3 months, um, I guess the mental stability has gotten a bit better just because things have died down a little bit. But now because of the terror attack in my city next to where my family lives, my it got much worse. So I would think that over the past 3 months, obviously there's been progress and it's been all over the news. The whole world has seen it. But for us, specifically for myself and my American family, it's very complicated and we're all very concerned. But especially now, I feel like I have been really affected by the whole situation. I put myself a lot into schoolwork. I put myself a lot into certain projects that I do or debating whatever it might be. That's how I cope with the whole situation. But yeah, it's horrible. But we're gonna push through. So that's what I have to input, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that. And so I don't know if everybody is aware that there was a horrible terrorist attack in Ra'anana, right near where Yoav lives, just a few days ago. I hope did you know any of the people who were affected? Because I know there were a bunch of kids and people around your age.
So gladly, I did not know anyone that was killed or injured. But some of the kids that were injured or killed, they actually attended my middle school that I went to there. And my grandmother was right across the street when everything happened. So, uh, but luckily, none of my friends were affected or family members.
Well, our hearts go out to you and everybody in your city. And I know all of us here share that. Our hearts are with you. And just, I mean, it's so much harder when it's right in your town. I mean, right where you live. For those of you who don't know, there was a car rammed into a whole bunch of people there. Were they like near a bus stop or something?
So yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, I'm not gonna get super graphical because obviously that wouldn't be fun. But basically, a few Palestinian activists, I guess, they came in, stole a family's car, and drove into 17 people in the city. They went through a bus stop, but they went into the driveway of a supermarket as well, and to a bunch of different locations. But at the end of the day, they drove into a lot of different people, which was very terrible. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Yitzhak or Matatyahu or Shani, do you want to talk a little bit about, yeah, Shani, go ahead.
For me, it's been at beginning it was really hard to kind of being forced into back to school, like back to everything. At first it was really hard because it's felt really fake. Like right now I go to school and the posters of the kidnappers are like everywhere. Like I can't go without seeing it. And I'm in high school, so I don't really search to go out of it, but just being all about my final exams and being all about the grades kind of feel fake to me, knowing that like I could tomorrow like been hit by a missile. Like I don't want to say it like, but I will. So everyone is just saying to me, all of the teachers, like everything can change within hours. So it just feels really fake to kind of like being care about the exam that I have tomorrow.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Um, Yitzhak, I
Yeah,
want to, could you tell us a little bit about what it was like on October 7th for
uh,
you being
yeah,
in
I can tell like basically. Well, I want to start first from the question you asked before. Like I feel that my life is pretty stuck because all day I'm at home. I don't see any of my friends. I don't have school or any education, so it's pretty tough. And October 7th, it's like, you know, it's been 3 months, but we still feel it, and there's like explosions all around here, and you hear all the things, and it's pretty stressful. Like when I've been to the city on October 7th, and I saw many things, and many people that I know got hurt or killed. So it's quite hard to process even now. But when the time comes, like after the time comes, it's just getting easier to accept everything and like, you know, with what happened.
So so how did it feel coming back home after all that time?
Well, I just wanted to come home all the time. We were displaced. I felt like I'm a refugee. I didn't have many clothes, didn't have like I couldn't do things that I like or can do at my house. So it was pretty tough. And it just like to come home, it's like the best feeling ever to be at your place and see like my brothers and sister. We were apart, so I could see them again. So it was really nice, I guess.
I'm assuming that your house wasn't damaged or anything, or what was
No, it wasn't damaged by the rockets or the terrorists, but many houses around did.
when on October 7th, did you hear, because there were terrorists in your town on October 7th, right? Did
Yeah,
you,
there were.
did you, how did you know this was happening, and did you see anything or?
We heard mostly like at 6 a.m., like 6:15, they start to send rockets and all of that. Before it was Simchat Torah, it was like a holiday for all of us. And like I went to sleep late, so it's like 4 a.m. and then I woke up, I was so tired. And then we started to hear the rockets. Okay, rockets, we used to it in my city for like 20 years. People live with that, with the anxiety, with the trauma of rockets, but still. And then like my sister, she worked at at the police station and all of that. And she called me and told me, it's how close the doors and close like the windows and everything. There's terrorists. And I thought, okay, every time there is something happens in Gaza, they say it might be terrorists. So I didn't believe her. And then we started to see all the footages of like terrorists near my friend's house and everybody filming and sending it to each other. And then I started to panic and all of that. I was alone at my house with my grandmother. She don't speak Hebrew, so she was very stressed. And like that's when I realized everything is happening. And yeah.
So what happened then?
Well, we got like two houses. So my brother and my mother was in one house and the other, and me and my grandma in other house. So like they managed like after a few hours to get to our house. And then like we were together there. And my brother is like a soldier, so he went outside to like, to help people and get to his unit. And he did that. So I was all alone with my mother and my grandmother. So like all the other residents of the city, we just like I took a bug spray. I thought maybe they're gonna be terrorists. I'm gonna spray it in their eyes and I don't know, kick them or something. So that's pretty much what's happening all the time. I was like awake for 32 hours straight. Like I slept that night 2 hours. I was awake and like everyone, you don't know what happened with each other and all of that. And my sister keeps Shabbat, so I didn't know if she's okay and all of that. And it was pretty stressful. But then after those hours, our my uncle came and picked us up and took us to another city, and we were displaced there. And that's it.
Thank you for sharing all of that. That must have been like unbelievably
Yeah.
horrifying.
Thank you for giving me the place to share that.
Well, I would love to talk to you more maybe after this and learn even a lot more, but thank you. Matityahu, did you want to talk more about what was the question? How your life changed after October 7th and what it's like now?
Um, okay, so like I believe it like from my perception of like how life changed like in the last 3 months, it becomes like in my vision I feel a bit like I live in a bubble because like I hear all the I remember hearing all the news and at the start like not believing that like I remember like waking up to the sound of sirens and quickly running down to the basement and being like, oh, not again. I want to know if there will be school. At least maybe I will miss school tomorrow. That should be fun. And then as time goes on, I see the more and more how horrific the situation is, and you come to the realization that something is wrong, and the thing is it's continuing. Like even when I'm talking right now, the war is still waging on, and there is the feeling of that life tries to go on, but at the same time they stop. Like how I explain this, like for example, recently there have been 100 days since the 7th of October massacre, and 100 days that the hostages are still in Gaza. And there is a weird feeling because, like, I remember, like at this point, I go to I do what everything that is practically normal. I go to school. I do tests. Everything that have been delayed is coming back together. But it doesn't feel right because you see all those pictures and you make all the I personally go with my class to the hostages square. I'm not sure how it is called in English, but in Tel Aviv, and talked to a lot of people there, and I even made some signs like with my art class, and like I do all those stuffs, which feels kind of weird because you do the activities that are supposed to be normal. You go to school, you meet new friends, but at the same time, you constantly hear about the war, and you hear about the hostages, and you constantly feel like there is at the same time, um, like it's like trying to breathe in and breathe out at the same time. It's kind of weird to me for me to explain, but like the two things are colliding, and there is a very weird feeling to that. And I have like really bad perception of time now, and like stuff that were used to be back there are now here, and stuff that were supposed to be later are now here, and it's all kind of weird, and I have weird senses of deja vu from the corona, kind of like, because I remember kind of like at the start it was how it is called, נו הסגר, סגר, I forgot.
Quarantine.
Like, yeah, that. And like it was very dense. And then later on there was a kind of an opening, and then it went to mess. And it's basically like that. And now it feels like the entire thing is messing up with my head. And yeah, basically I have I kind of try my best to perceive time and the events, and it's very hard on many levels, but like, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was, I think we all kind of are trying to wrap our heads around that. And it feels a little bit like that here, you know, looking at Israel from such a great distance, but we still feel it, but nowhere near, you know, somebody who's actually living in it and through it. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wonder if any of our Temple people want to ask a question. Just unmute and ask a question or raise your hand. Okay, Shelley.
Hi, my name's Shelley. I did watch the program that several of you were on with our confirmation students, and I was struck by one of the questions that I don't remember who it was. I don't think she's on right now, but one of the questions was asked was, do you find that you get discriminated? This person who was on from Israel, she asked our students if they feel discriminated against in school, and she said, I would be afraid to live in the United States where I could be discriminated against. And I was just wondering if anyone else feels that way. It was a very interesting comment.
I think it was me. Like the
Oh,
last
okay.
time I asked like if they experience any anti-Semitism comments, because we in Israel are very protected from anti-Semitism because we are in kind of like all Jews kind of environment. Like we have seen Arabs and we have seen Christians, but again, it's very minority, more Arabs than Christians. And when I see the world, then I see all the bad stuff. Like when we see the news, when it comes to us, so it's always like a murder in France. It's always like the bad stuff against the Jews. And a lot of stuff have come up with it, like because of the war. So I just thought, like, it's very hard to feel protected. Like we feel in our country, like we don't have another country. That's the way like we act. That's the way that we are raised. Like any other country, you can be discriminated. So it's nothing bad, and I don't think that I will stay in Israel forever. Like I will, but I mean I can go out of Israel. It's just like that in Israel, you just get the sense of like Jews outside of Israel can't feel security. Like the little security that you have in Israel, it's the best thing ever. So that's just why I asked it, because we feel, because like if you're not in Israel, then you're not protected. You don't have like the self-defense that we have.
Excellent. Thank you, Shani. Just to give you the flip side of this, when my daughter, who is out of college now, but when she was in high school, she went to Israel for the first time. And she was filled with misgivings because in the United States, we hear about all the terrorist attacks. And she was very scared to go to Israel. And my in-laws, who were living in Israel at the time, kind of calmed her down and said, no, it's really not, as bad as the United States media portray. So it works both ways. We hear all the bad things too.
Thank you. Anybody else have a question?
I do.
Robin, go ahead.
Yes, I was wondering if any of you have younger siblings or cousins. I know I have I'm a 3-year-old granddaughter, and I can't imagine explaining this kind of thing to her. And I wondered how that's handled, how you handle that.
I have a little sister, and like she's much more understanding than we want her to know. Like some of my like my younger cousins, so like my aunt doesn't allow like opening the TV in meals in kiddush, so they don't allow to like open the news because she doesn't want them to experience it. But the kids already like they can understand it, like they're not blind. And sadly my little sister knows a lot more than we want her to know. Like at the start of it, like at the 7th of October, like she was, as soon as she realized that it could happen, like the terrorists can come to our house, she was really afraid. Like I remember, like it was a month ago, somebody like opened, it was a police officer from like our city, just about going to ask about my father about some stuff. They always did, but nobody told her that, and she was home alone, so she took like some sort of like a wood thing that we had in our house, that some sort of shelf that my father didn't put on, and she came to protect herself, like until my father like called to calm her down. Like,
Oh gosh, I'm sorry. Ugh.
no, like I can say it's okay, but it's like stuff that happens, and hopefully like we can protect her more than we can.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yitzhak.
Well, I wanted to say I don't have a little brother or sister, but I have nephews, and I see how little children in my city experience with this whole situation. Like for us from young age, like we get like some kind of resilience for all these things because we're so close to the border. But like from for every kid, for every dad, sometimes even little children have more resilience than grown-ups. For example, like little kids can when I was in the center of Israel, people there react to rocket alarms more serious and more afraid than we, like the people of the Gaza envelope, react to that. And like, so it really depends where the kid is living to like transport like the information for them. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Unmute yourself.
I am unmuted.
Just to piggyback on what they're asking, do they provide any kind of trained professionals in your schools for kids who need to talk to them, or anybody to help them?
Okay, Yoav and then Shani.
So in my school, it's required to have people like that to talk to because it's an international school and it's full of diplomats or diplomats' kids. for that matter, and we basically have guidance counselors that we talk to on a weekly basis. But also if you ever really need to talk to someone about the current situation or what's going on, there's a specific program in our school that we have. So yeah, it's sort of to I'm not saying that this war doesn't have the ability to make us incredibly depressed, but I guess these counselors help us in the process. And if we get so stressed with school, for example, then they're able to kind of maintain the balance between everything and see what they can do and discuss with our teachers on certain solutions. So again, that's something in my school specifically that we have.
Shani. Shani,
Um,
then
I'm sorry. In my school, we don't have nothing. We have like one guidance council on 300 students. They used to like ask us how we feel on Zoom, like on the 7th, 8th October, like all of the first week. Then it just stopped. It's okay. I guess for me, I didn't really needed that help. Like I just went through it with my pre-military movement. So we had a fallen soldier that was in the pre-military movement. So it really helped like when they talked about them and I cried. So that was like the first time I cried in a war. So it was really helped. It really made me like process everything. But from school we get nothing. Like at least from my school. But that's like I think the public school in Israel, it's like we can't expect for too much. I don't personally like I've been through like our time in COVID too, and I had nobody. I know people like in my town, all over my town, it's having some really hard time about the war and not about the war, and they have nobody. So it's really, you can't expect too much. At first, I was really angry, but now I just turned to accept it that, in my city, you just need to go through it yourself. You don't get any help.
so do you rely on your friends then to kind of like support each other?
I think yes. I usually the supporter and not liking that people support me, but yeah, I think that eventually you came into realization that people only need to like be listened to, like only need to like talk about it. So once you give them like the ear, so they they are all really really open up. So sometimes people only need to talk, and that's what I did and trying to still do. Doing all of it, like just to talk to people that I don't usually know, like how do you feel about it? I'm doing the adult jobs.
You certainly are. Like you get a ton of credit for being who you are and how much you're supporting everybody else. Thank you. Harriet, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes, I was curious about how you feel about what the United States at this point is pushing Israel or ask that to kind of stop some of the fighting in order for the hostages to be released, or they're hopefully, and a Palestinian state. What is your reaction to that?
Yoav and then Shani.
Just for the like my understanding is the question, how do I react to the US's, I guess, a response to what's been going on? Is that more so the question?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand everything. Was that addressed to me to clarify?
Yeah. So Yoav, I think Harriet was asking how you react to the pressure that the United States is putting on Israel. Is that correct, Harriet?
Yes, yes.
So in terms of a ceasefire, I guess, or in terms of I guess humanitarian control within the region, which obviously the US has been pressuring for a while now. Sorry, I was getting a call. So I would say that this is obviously very personal for me because of what's just happened in my city. So I have a very one-sided view on things right now at this moment. But in general, Israel right now is in a point of weakness, in terms of like the United Nations, of course. And the only ally that we have in the United Nations is the USA. And obviously, the US has not appreciated as much as like what Israel's been trying to do. In the war, obviously, we haven't been doing exactly what the US has wanted. It's very vague, but that's to my understanding. And if we lose the US as an ally, then it can be catastrophic for our country. And also, Bibi Netanyahu recently released how he would like to, I guess, annihilate a Palestinian state and input Israeli democracy into that region. I went a little bit off on the question, but in terms of the pressure that the US is putting on us, I feel like there has to be a better communication between the two countries, just because you can't expect, of course, I'm not a government official, but you can't expect a ceasefire over and over again when the deal is, I guess this is one example, giving back one Israeli soldier for 1,000 Palestinians or many terrorists out of that bunch. That was a specific example of what happened a few months ago. And these trade-offs between getting back Israeli hostages and terrorists, I don't know how it's possible. And in terms of humanitarian aid, or for the reason why they're doing this, which is what the US wants, it's not the most logical option. I don't feel like the pressure is, I guess, correct. That's just my view on it. I feel like there has to be another solution where we don't have to sacrifice so much on our side in order to, I guess, benefit the terrorists or simply Hamas on the other side. Obviously, it's very complicated, so I can't have a direct diplomatic answer.
Thank you so much. I think we don't, nobody needs to be diplomatic here. We want to hear exactly how you feel. Shani.
I found like that pressure to make like a two-state resolution again. I find it a bit absurd. I'm sorry, but we tried it. It didn't work. It brought us to the situation that we are today. Like, I just have like zero faith anymore. Like, I know I shouldn't blame anyone, and I don't blame the Palestinian people. I really don't. But I really don't think that they should allow it to be like, to have independent anymore. We brought them independent, and they make every money, every dollar that we gave them, they used it to kill us. So why should I trust them again with the country, again with the ceasefire, again with knowing that they will not bring us the amount of hostages that we want, that most likely they will not bring us all the hostages. So they want a ceasefire for what? For a little bit, like 5 a day. We haven't there like 100 and 130, I think now. So like, how do you want us to do it? Like, do you want at the end of it, because that they kidnap so much and we appreciate life more than anything in Israel, we've came in a situation where in every position we lose. It's either losing the hostages or losing like, or doing this all loop again until the 7th of October will happen again. I cannot see like the pressure from the United States is coming from a valid reason, which I guess I really do love the Palestinian people. I do love the Arabs in my country, but I just feel like I can't do it again. I can't live like this again.
Thank you so much. That was, thank you for saying that. I completely understand. Matityahu, then Yitzhak, then Yoav.
Okay, so in my eyes, the pressure that the United States makes on the Israeli government towards a ceasefire, in my eyes, it is not like it is quite bad, but there is some kind of, like, I think that the pressure shouldn't be necessarily towards a ceasefire, or at least like not necessarily a ceasefire by the means of like just stop shooting. I think there should be a pressure from the United States government to the Israeli government about how to finish the war in a situation where the hostages are being released. And when I say the hostages, I mean all of them. And to, in some way, try to establish at least some kind of another a democratic state in Gaza and somehow solve the Palestinian conflict. But this is a mess on its own right. And I'm not stupid. Like, I know like that Hamas probably won't do it, but I think that starting with the hostages is, I think, the right step, because there have been cases in the past of hostages being kidnapped into Gaza. It was never in this scale, and it was usually in singles. But it was, first of all, the process have been taken decades, if ever. Like, for example, there is the fairly famous Gilad Shalit a negotiation, which took a lot of time, and was if I remember correctly, Yahya Sinwar was actually one of the prisoners that have been released on that case, and there is also another very famous, relatively famous hostage, Abera Mengistu, who is, I think, over a decade a hostage in Gaza, and he haven't been released yet. And the negotiations doesn't really go anywhere, like in the terms of that. And now this is like in singles, like in one or two. Imagine that with all the hostages that we have now. This process is going to be very costly and very timely. And I think it is, like, for all parties involved, I think it is the main priority to get the hostages away and to try and deal with Hamas. Like, it's, first of all, it is a very good idea for the Israeli government, because it's the Israeli government job and Israel as a whole to take care of its citizens, probably. And you can't really do it if the hostages are still hostages. I think it is also within the interest of the United States, because trying to get the hostages will put the inner pressure within Israel towards continuing with the military effort, because the military effort is the only true pressure that actually helps us to negotiate towards the hostages release. And finally, I think it is also good for the Palestinians, because I personally don't have anything against the Palestinians, and I want them to be free from Hamas. I want there to be an establishing democracy, and I don't care if it will be under Israel or under a Palestinian government or some kind of other state. I don't care right now. But what I do care is that they will also have a happy and peaceful life, like just like we do. And in order to do that, the hostages must go away, and also Hamas, because if the hostages are still hostages, then Israel must continue the effort towards releasing them, because again, it's her responsibility. And politic-wise, I don't think like like the inner pressure will stop, and if it will, it's probably a very bad thing for Israel. And this is what I personally think. So in short, in the conclusion, in all those sentences being watered down to, I think the pressure in general is good, but I don't think it motivated to the right thing. I think if we slide it up towards an actual peace agreement that includes the releasing of all hostages, and maybe if could be an establishment of a democracy in Gaza, then yes, I think it is a very good thing.
Thank you so much, Matityahu. Yitzhak, I think, were you next? and then Yoav.
Yoav can go first. I gotta do something for a second.
Okay, Yoav.
So one thing that I wanted to ask, I mean, am I allowed to ask Harriet a question, or is it more like a one-sided thing?
Sorry,
So
sorry, totally. Ask whatever you want. Yep.
Yeah.
so Harriet, I just wanted to ask, I know that you asked the question initially, but I wanted to see like what's your view on what's going on? And like how are you, I guess, looking at the news and how are you dealing with what's going on in the country?
I am scared for Israel. I'm scared for myself too because of the anti-Semitism, but certainly for Israel. I think I understand or I appreciate this terrible pressure on Israel. I mean, what happened to you? The world seems to minimize it. So many people. As far as a solution, I don't know. Every day in our news we see pictures of what's happening in the Gaza Strip. That Israel is trying to destroy Hamas as the means to get the hostages back. I feel very, I have to say at this point, very conflicted about what I feel could be effective. My main feeling, my priority is I don't see any kind of thing, a winning thing for Israel at this point. I don't know if it's possible to destroy Hamas. I think you'll always have enemies. I don't know.
So, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think one really important thing that I have to respond to is in war or in any global conflict, there's never a win-win situation, and there's also never a winning situation. It's whenever that first person is killed, there's no winning situation. And I feel like any solution, whatever that may be, because of course, like you said, will eradicating Hamas really do the trick? Will it really give peace back to the region, or will another terrorist group be brought back to the region? You never know. So I think um, there isn't really that. Whenever there is a solution, it's not going to be a win for Israel. It's going to be a relief, or it's going to be a moment where we can mourn, or a moment that we can just, I guess, rest just in peace and be with our families and not have to worry every day if we're going to be shot or killed. So there isn't really that middle ground right now or ever where you can just say that we won, because it's another people, it's a whole the Palestinian people. It's not that every single Palestinian civilian is not innocent or guilty. That's not true. Those are real lives with real hearts and real minds, and the fact that we're killing them and the fact that they're killing us, it's horrible, and there is no winning situation. And I sometimes Israelis, or at least for me, I feel a lot of pain, and I'm really here, and I like see what's going on at first hand. But I can't even imagine also what it's like for people overseas with their families here, or how they're dealing with the situation, what they even see on the news, and it's so hard to imagine what's going on over here. So, but I really do appreciate you saying that.
Thank you so much, Yoav. Yitzhak and then Phyllis.
Okay, so first I want to say that like before the whole October 7th, I had a really different opinion about like the United States relation with Israel and with other countries. Like I want to say also, I was in a peace program called CFP in the United States with Israeli Palestinians and more nationalities. And what I thought there, it was like the United States and other global superpowers just like stuck themselves into conflicts and things they are not involved to, like the United States in Ukraine or in Israel or in Asia, parts of Asia, and like also Russia and China that get involved into conflicts they shouldn't been. But after October 7th, I realized that like without the United States help and aid and all of that, well, basically we might not have a country, and people and other nations would attack us in this situation. And like for a president of the greatest place, the greatest country in the world, come to help us and come to I don't know, like to meet people from my area, to come visit my city, to come visit other villages nearby. It really means something. And sometimes like I think a lot about peace, about how uninvolved people get involved. Like on October 7th, more than half of the terrorists were civilians, people who was like under the highlight of civilians in kibbutzim nearby. Like in places like my city was mostly like terrorists, like they learn how to be terrorists and how to use weapons, but a lot of the hostages was kidnapped by civilians, by even like Gazan teenagers who came and kidnapped people. So it's really like when you look at that, you just, how can I live with this nation, with these people as neighbors, as even in one country, if they want to kill me and eradicate me and like all those things? So it's really hard to think about that. But I think for a solution, it's not like a solution, okay, the United States, Israel, Palestinians decide for a Palestinian state and that's it. Because when countries decide, no, when people grow up and full of hate, and when they see, like, I can understand if a Palestinian in Gaza feel hate for Israel because you see all this mass damage that has been caused. But I can understand people in my side hating the other side of the Palestinians because they saw what those people did to us. And I can also understand people abroad seeing all the footages from Gaza and all the pain of the Palestinian people. But when the media show one thing, it doesn't mean it's the reality. Like also Israeli media and Arab media and global media don't show everything equally. So yeah. And for a solution for that, I think the war should be ended by like taking even land from the Gaza Strip and making something for those Palestinians to show them we're not willing to let you, like for 20 years, the place where I live was bombed, and kids and my sister, she's like 21, she all her life since the day she was born, it was with rockets, and people handle anxiety and all of it. And when we gave the Palestinians autonomy on Gaza and gave them democracy, they chose those terrorists for leading them. So how can you like even deal with this situation like that? So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was everybody. I really extremely appreciate your comments. They're so wise and thoughtful and heartfelt. Phyllis, go ahead.
One of the hardest things that I've dealt with here, you're dealing with much harder over there. One of the things that I've dealt with here a lot are people that I have respected for a long time. Even my union, which I was a teacher for 40 years, came out with a statement calling Netanyahu's government genocide. And I've been doing a lot of arguing back and forth with people that I've respected, at least in the past, on this issue. And I wondered how you reacted to hearing that they believe what's happening on Israel's side is genocide.
Good question. Shani.
My first time dealing with like some sort of like a pro-Palestine like influencer was when I was like 12. And at first, like I did like a like on this comment because I really like this person, like this influencer. And then I saw like the Palestinian flag, and my heart literally broke, and I stopped like hearing, like watching her and everyone that she like were in a group context. And it's been like this ever since. Like once they say the word for Palestinian, something of me like think the worst, and we're just like, so you want me dead? Like you want me out of my house? You want me away from my country? It's really hard. Today I'm more mature, so if I had like friends before like that, I'm talking to them like in English on my Instagram. So I'm just like explaining to them like the situation. Yeah, I'm from Israel, like I'm from the war, you know. Can I like explain it? And sometimes they ask me to like what is your side in this? And I'm like explaining them before, like I'm from Israel, I'm Jewish. I can't explain to you the Palestinian side, but I can explain to you our side. So for me, it's been really hard to like having like role models or like people that I really love, like coming out as Palestinians. Sometimes like now I have like a band that I really like, and I pray every day that they will just shut up. Like I don't want you to say anything about it, because just for you, I don't want you to come out as pro-Israel because you'll get hate, and I don't want to need to like start hating you. So please just shut up.
Thank you. Matityahu and Yitzhak and Yoav. Val will get to you. I just want them all to be able to answer that question.
In my opinion, I also have this occurrence when I usually see people that I either respected or knew or somewhat liked to watch, either directly or indirectly support these claims. And like I like to joke about those kind of stuff. Like I remember there was like in Eretz Nederet, which is an Israeli program about satire and so on and so on. It was like joking about, I think it was Greta, this activist child who is pro-Palestinian, and called the Israeli actions a genocide. And there was a lot of jokes about how now the Israelis we've become smart and acknowledge that she is a very horrible child, and as a retribution we shall pollute the oceans and stuff, like, because she is an activist. And like there's like I usually copulate with jokes. Another phenomenon, like as for the second phenomenon, like about criticizing the Israeli government, in my view, like at the first times I was very offended, like how dare you accuse the Israeli government of such things. And then I look at myself and said, wait, I usually criticize the Israeli government. And then I look at them and said, wait, you are from Israel. It's my job as an Israeli citizen to criticize Israel. What are you doing? You steal my job. And yeah, like I'm pretty sure if you will talk to an Israeli, most of them will say that they're not very much not liking the current government from different stuff, either pre-7 or after, or many stuff and many politics. And from the Israeli perspective, like I think, like we try to, like I say, that most of the criticism is about, like, they're accusing us in genocide. The question is who they're accusing. There are people who are accusing all of Israel and its citizens. There are people who are accusing specific ones. Those who accuse the IDF, those who accuse the government. And then I kind of like barrels it. But in either case, I think the accusation of a genocide is not very, like I can see where they're coming from, but I think that the accusation of a genocide is not accurate and is very mugzam.
Exaggerated.
Exaggerated, exactly. Um, and like most of the time, like when you see the response, like I remember, especially from the government, you see a lot of stuff, but like from the outside world, I think we are looking like extremely dangerous and hard. And to the Israeli viewer, it seems like a bunch of not relevant stuff or stuff that hardly matter. Like I remember, like again back to the jokes. I remember a scene where basically were a bunch of Israeli government people who basically says a lot of stupid stuff and were taken very much seriously by the judge, and it's basically the equivalent of like you feel like you are acute, like you are in a sentence, and your lawyer is also a leader of a bananas republic, and like you are trying to like you find yourself having a defense which is better than what the lawyer have. And yeah, so overall I think the accusations are not as harsh as they're supposed to be. I do think I do acknowledge the many deaths that occur in Gaza, but I don't think I do, and I do think that the Israeli government uh, is not good, but I don't think that a genocide is occurring, and I still believe that the IDF and Israel as a whole is doing its best to minimize casualties, and yeah.
Thank you so much. Yitzhak, are you there or? Okay, go ahead. And then
Yeah, I'm here. So I think people just believe to what they've been told by media, by other people, by people they trust, like influencers, they choose side immediately. And I also think like wars and conflicts just became like a trend in the global community when people go to rallies and go to protest about things that actually make them feel good about themselves and just like, oh, I'm doing something good for other people and the environment and whatever. Yeah, so that's it.
thank you, Yoav.
Hi. So first of all, Phyllis, I wanted to take it to a little bit of a different, I guess, view or lens, which is towards, I guess, education. So you just said that you were a teacher for 4 years, and my mother's a teacher as well, and she looks at all this whole situation from, I guess, the perspective of an Israeli teacher. And for her, like when she looks at the way that principals of these U.S. universities, um, especially the Ivy League schools, the statements that they've made, it is incredible. It's amazing in a negative way to see these reactions that they have, right? And this is a bit more personal for me, but when I was little, um, ever since I think I was like 10, 9 years old, I've pretty much had my eyes set on where I wanted to attend university. And many out of those universities have been ones that made these, I'm not saying anti-Semitic statements, but I'm saying neutral statements that have been deemed anti-Semitic and have caused people like Dr. Gay from Harvard to resign. And I mean, it's very tough because it's not only that now the US is our only ally, but there's so much anti-Semitism in the US in these amazing universities, supposedly, that now I don't know what to do anymore, because I had a dream and now it's completely shattered because of the actions of these few leaders from these top universities, um, which I've seen as like superheroes since I was little, but now it's sort of all broken apart. So from this war, you can really see the truth in people and in the government and in the US, and you can go on and on. But you really see the truth sort of coming out of how people act. And of course, I'm not the only person that feels this way. A lot of people, and I've recently released an article, not an article, but a statement on this app called LinkedIn that was responding to this Harvard graduate, an Israeli Harvard graduate, and he was in shock, and he was making these like hateful statements towards these people at Harvard and these Ivy League universities because he graduated from there. He was proud to be a graduate from there, but now it's deemed anti-Semitic, which is completely, I would say, accurate. So that's sort of my view on it, is that it's sort of from a different standpoint, is that when I want to move forward with my life after the army in Israel, where am I going to go? You know, these top schools are no longer top schools in my eyes. They can be the highest level of education, but in terms of empathy or in terms of respect, I don't feel like these universities are applicable anymore. So that's sort of my view on it.
Thank you. Very, very powerful. So Val, we'll get to you and you'll have the last question because we're over time. So go ahead.
Thanks. I just don't think it's possible for me to be more impressed with the youth of Israel. And it's kind of hard for us in America when we see all this destruction and anti-Semitism, at least here, to be hopeful, but you make me hopeful. But that said, I think that you're shouldering so much responsibility. One of the things that Shani said was she feels like she's alone, she's on her own. She's trying to be the voice to people who need to have their voice their fears. And I kind of wanted to say that there's our community and so many others in the United States that would like to be that voice for you, like to be that ear for you, and hope that we can maybe reach out and offer some comfort, and like to know what would be the most helpful thing we would be able to do for you.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. What would you guys like from us? Like what would help you that we could offer, Shani?
I think what that you can do is, I think at the end it's just supporting us from afar, because you can't really change anything about the conflict, but right now we see a lot more hate towards the Jews than the Jews supporting each other. Like I saw in a pro-Palestinian, like a lot of Jews just don't believe in that we deserve our country. So I was just like a bit hurted. Like I knew that they were existing before that, but it was different. But it was different seeing them like this. I'm sorry, they distract me. But it's different than seeing them like chanting from the river to the sea, like knowing that they want me away. But I get it. But if you want to go by the Torah, like the Torah also say that once you're in Israel, you can't leave the Israel. So what do you want us like to do? I think that we hear a lot more. Like in the first, like in the 7th of October, like we saw a lot of like we support Israel, and it was really nice to see. But now there is only like the pro-Palestinians, like, so it's really different. We feel a lot like the Jewish community kind of like forgot about us and move on. So I personally like felt like the Jews outside of Israel is kind of like disconnected from us, and like a lot of people, like I know, like in my family specifically, just like consider you like, don't, no offense, but consider you like down for not coming to Israel because they just see all of the AIDS in the street. So they were just like, how can you live like that? Well, in Israel, you just like all of the Jews together. I guess that's what I want. I want to see that we are being supported, that I'm being pushed to stay in this country, because the easiest thing to do for us will be to leave, to just start a better new life in a different state. But that's our state. Israel is our state. Or I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't have any other country. The only way for me to get a country is to marry from somebody outside of my country. But that's what people don't understand. Yes, we came here, but like, I think that if I will come to Bulgaria and tell, my grandma was here, was born, no, I'm sorry, my great grandma was born here. Can I get an citizenship? I'm sure that they will just be like, go away. Like, there's no other place for us as well to be like.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to say how we can be most helpful for you, Yoav?
I'll actually let Yitzhak go first, just because my statement is sort of a bit off.
Okay, so I want to add to what Shani said. Basically, our parents came here because they were targeted by being Jews and all of that, just like feeling so off that all of this is happening. And I want to add, like, Israeli youth doesn't get really exposed to Jews in the diaspora and basically people from outside of Israel very often, like especially people the place where I live, youth in the place where I live. And also like the feeling of like you all listening to us, it's like and giving us some empathy, I guess. It's like way more than like a psychologist or someone else can talk with children and youth about like the whole thing that happening with the war and everything. So yeah, I want to thank you all for that.
And thank you for sharing so much. I mean, I can just tell by the faces of the people from our temple, like watching, like how moved every single one of us is, and I want to. First of all, I want to get all your email addresses because I want to follow up with you. So maybe if you could put your email addresses in the chat because I do want to follow up with you, if that's okay. But thank you so much for allowing yourselves to share. All right, Yoav, do you want to go?
Sure, yeah, I just put my email in the chat. It was pretty much what Yitzhak said. I really want to thank all of you guys. I think that in terms of like helping us, the Israeli community out, it's meetings like this where you actually see like how you guys are aware of what's going on and that you're um trying to ask questions and you're interested about what's going on and you're caring and you're empathetic. And I think that's what's most important for us right now to maintain that stability is to have people like you guys, which I'm really thankful for, and we're all thankful for, that you're coming to this meet, asking questions, making us feel like, well, I guess wanted in this whole conflict. So I just wanted to thank you guys, and I know you've already been thanked, but you can never thank enough.